You got any like, whoa?
Come and seek on in it by the one file. If you want, you've paid it.
Well, welcome to the Tora podcast. Today I've come to chat with Hein Cooper, old friend from many years back. I think the first time was on tour with Tora back in 2015 it would have been, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
2014 maybe even.
Potentially.
Yeah.
So yeah, Hein's been a long-time friend, long-time creative partner, I guess. We worked on music even in the early days. I remember Tora did a remix for
The Art of Escape.
Yeah, The Art of Escape.
Yeah.
So yeah, we go way back, and we've kept in touch for many years, and we're both happen to be in Quebec right now, in Montreal. So we thought we'd meet up. We've been jamming and hanging out. We thought we might as well, come and have a chat for the Tora podcast to just get, a bit more insight into the music industry and where each other's at and where we see the music industry going. So, what have you been like getting up to lately, bro? Tell me about it.
Okay, well, I think to answer that question properly, I have to talk about something just bigger than music. I feel like in the last couple of months, I've been on a bit of a journey to kind of almost take a step back from the way that I've been hustling music for such a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the last couple of months has just been really about having some kind of a bigger picture of, I mean, even in the last 10 years since we've been making music, it's changed so much. Like Spotify became a thing. Like it wasn't even a thing. Like Tora was SoundCloud.
Yeah. I mean, that's how it all launched. Basically, we put a couple of tracks up on SoundCloud, and then we saw like blogs posting them, and we were like, what's a blog? Like
Hype Machine.
Hype Machine.
Someone said Hype Machine to me the other day, and I was like, whoa.
That's crazy.
What happened to Hype Machine?
It's crazy, and it's clear that things like there's always like a power struggle in the music industry between like innovative companies, whether it's things like Spotify or at one point it was Napster and
LimeWire.
Through the piracy era, there was a lot of it was difficult for the music industry and musicians, even just the managers, the labels, the publishers. Like music basically became devalued overnight.
Yeah.
And then in a sense, Spotify and Apple Music. I mean, Jimmy Iovine was one of the pioneers of the whole Apple Music like streaming model.
Yeah.
From Interscope Records. He's like the guy who he produced like I think Fleetwood Mac and was. Did like beats by Dre, like very influential businessman.
Yeah.
And he saw it as an opportunity to save the music industry from pirates, like from piracy. Was like introduce the streaming model, and then tighten up the algorithms online so that we can stop people from stealing intellectual property and make sure everyone is compensated for that on things like TikTok, Instagram. Like if a song goes viral, obviously these days, it's people are compensated for that to some degree. And it's much harder to steal intellectual property online. So I think it was actually that big shift in the way of thinking, like when people realized moving to the streaming model was the only way forward for the music industry, and I guess a lot of the entertainment industries, it kind of reshaped the game, and now we're in that game. And I think a lot of people still don't understand how to play that game. And so really what it comes down to is making the best possible, most engaging content and like finding ways to interact with your audience. That's essentially what building a career in music is these days. As an independent artist, you just have to crunch, and there's so many ways to do it with tech. I just think, there's a real opportunity. Like we've been talking about it a lot off camera, but wanted to kind of go into it a bit more today. Like what kind of things have you been hearing about? Because like we've gone into the stuff like the song sets, what is it? The explore machine. What's it called?
Song stats.
There's a search engine for playlists on Song Stats that allows you to like find playlists similar to your music. So it'll suggest you the playlists that have similar artists in them, and then you can filter it out to basically make to choose whether or not the playlist has like really popular songs in it or if it's unknown songs. So you can find the most appropriate playlist with this tool, which essentially enables you to find the curators, because you can get their contact details from the actual the tool, and then you can contact those creators before you go and release a track. And so you find the right playlists. What it's all about these days is making sure that you're reaching the right audience. It doesn't matter really what music you're making. Everything has an audience. So if you can reach that audience, you can be successful. So how do you find that audience? Well, use tools like the Song Stats search engine, playlist search engine, and go and find the curators for the playlists that are similar to the music that you're trying to reach people with. And then get your songs in those playlists. It's a simple thing. And that's just like, that all feeds into your Spotify strategy, because ultimately on the day of release, Spotify the algorithm is already calculating your popularity score for that song. And it's trying to figure out how much traction comes from off platform, how much traction came on platform, and how people responded. And that will affect the popularity score, which affects basically how much Spotify will push your song in the algorithmic playlists and autoplay and radio and all of that stuff. So it's really important to make sure on day one that you give the release the biggest chance at raising that popularity score. And that comes from multiple things, like driving people to Spotify from other platforms, from your social media. And that kind of plays into like the epiphany that I've been having lately, which is like social media is just like something I've always like kind of left in the background, but I think these days it's becoming more important. And
but then it's also crazy that like at the same time there's a lot of people on social media right now who are getting crazy numbers but aren't getting the trail of actually connecting their music with real people. So I feel like that's like a really interesting kind of like confused moment in just the world right now, because it used to be so 360 with like, you know, you either were an artist that people knew about or no one knew about you, because you had the radio, you had television, you had record stores, you went on a tour, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas now it's like, you have infinite amount of people who can put their stuff up on Spotify, and you have social media where everybody has, you know, the currency is basically attention.
100%.
Like how can you get people's attention? And then at the same time, like what's really important to me, and I think it's just really important to, like for humanity, is to like do it in a way that's real.
100%.
Because there's so many people who are like aware that they can do certain things to get attention, which are not actually healthy or positive for the world. And so there's obviously a lot of people who are just like doing all kinds of like crazy shit they wouldn't actually do if they didn't just feel the need 100%. To get the attention. So it's like, I guess what I really care about and what I'm seeing really that inspires me at the moment is like people using social media and their music in a way that's truly authentic to them and reaching people.
100%.
That's like the highest goal, I feel.
Yeah, well, I think like in the beginning, like for an artist, a big factor is just trying to shape your sound, shape your image, and your identity, and figure out who you are and what value you can give to the world with your music and your art. And so in those early stages, social media can be really helpful for like figuring out who you are, because you get feedback from people, and that kind of is part of the process of being a creator. Is it's a conversation, it's a call, and it's a response. You put out a song and people react, and the way that they react is going to affect how you feel, and how you feel is going to impact how you create the next song, and the energy energy that you put into the next song. So it's all a conversation. It's a feedback loop. And as we evolve in the music industry, it seems like that conversation is becoming more and more potent, and it's becoming a lot more of a collective. I see, like, with online, with duets, with like the virality on TikTok, even Instagram Reels. I'm seeing there's a lot of, like, it's hyper creative. People are becoming more and more creative these days online.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more collaboration, which is exciting for me. And I guess for me, what is the most exciting is the potential for us to make a community of artists who all support each other. Like, in the past, sometimes it's felt like everybody's on their own. In this game, trying to get to the top
fully,
and everyone's doesn't really mind what it takes to get there. They'll do whatever it takes. But ultimately, if we can create a community or a culture in the music industry where we're all actually supporting each other, we're collaborating, we're shouting each other out, we're having conversations like this, we're teaching people how to look after their business, and also how to create art, how to collaborate with other artists, what it is to create art. Like, why are you a musician? What are you doing? Like, are you trying to say something? Are you doing it for fun? Are you trying to help people? Are you just expressing a message? Like, there's so many reasons why people create music. And if you want to be an artist and you want people to feel connected to you, you have to figure out why you're doing it.
Yeah.
For me, the reason I do music is because it's therapy. It heals my soul. It gets the baggage off of my shoulders.
Yeah.
And it takes me back to basically the first time I wrote a song that actually meant something to me. When I was 13 years old, my sister's boyfriend, he was my older sister's boyfriend, he died in a car accident. He actually was in a coma for 2 weeks. And during that time, I really felt something happen within me which shifted my entire way of thinking. And I sat there on the day that they unplugged him from the machines, and I literally wrote a song as his soul left his body. And the song was called Baby I'm Dying. And the lyrics were basically sounding like it was my sister. He was singing through me to my sister. And that was a profound moment for me to have that, like, connection with the whole. And so from that day on, I just dedicated my life to music and used music as a tool to communicate, and to heal myself and to heal others.
So did you feel like you knew this guy pretty well as well? Like,
yeah, he was like, he taught me guitar.
Oh, he literally
was my mentor. Yeah. And they were dating for I think 5 or 6 years. Yeah, something like that.
That's really intense.
Yeah.
So it was like more than just your sister's boyfriend. It was like he meant a lot to you.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah, exactly. He was my second older brother, I guess.
Yeah.
So that shaped me, and that's kind of at that point I said I'm just going to do music. Up until that point, I was like a football player. I was like
crazy.
doing other things.
That's so wild, because like I feel like for a lot of really special artists that I think of have had experiences like that were the precursor to all of the incredible shit they do. Another example is Bon Iver. He had I think he had like a real sickness at the time before he made Forever Ago. Mm-hmm. Like literally a bad sickness. I'm not sure what it was. And then obviously like massive heartbreak. But even Sam Fender, like, I don't know how many people know this, but like, because I got to spend some time with Sam Fender in the UK before he blew up, and he had cancer before. He actually had like bad cancer before he I think he made like an EP of songs when he was like 19 or something like that, and it was all looking really good, and then he got cancer. And then it was like years of fighting cancer. Wow. Yeah. And then came back and, just elevated consciousness, I feel, really tapped in powerful energy.
Yeah. I mean, there's something there's a continuous theme that I see going on with a lot of the most successful people on the planet, and that is that they tend to have gone through some sort of struggle or some sort of suffering, and that shaped their character so that they could rise up and become the person that they are today, which is a process that every human has to go through. I guess it's the hero's arc or something of the sort, where you're basically faced with a challenge, and the process of overcoming that challenge is what builds your character and is what makes you someone who can be valuable and can help all of the people around you as a result of your suffering.
Yeah. So this is the question that I have for right now, and obviously like things have changed over time, and you and I have also had different approaches because, you know, for your music you have really figured out in every way how to make it all yourself, which is incredible when I think about that. The fact that you like produce it, you write it, you mix it, you master it. It's just like, so it's such a powerful way to approach music. For me, I've been a lot more collaborative and hired producers and gone to that country and blah, blah, blah. And like put the kind of a bit of the power in other people's hands, which I don't actually think either is a bad or positive, any more positive or negative than each other. It's just different approaches. But amongst all of that with the music making, the technology has changed. Spotify has become a thing. Social media has become a thing. Now it seems like social media works best when you are giving something that is actually useful to people, as opposed to even just saying like, hey, everybody, this is my song. Can you please go and listen to it? You know what I mean? Can you like I made a video like a month ago of me, I told you about this already, but like setting up a home studio. Mm-hmm. It was the most successful video I've posted ever because it was useful to other people. Yeah. But it's like, you know, obviously I feel like my music is useful to other people too, because it just means so much to me. Mm-hmm. But it's like, how does the artist now provide everything that they stand for with social media, but not make it about themselves?
Yeah. Because really, it's you know? Like I was saying, it's a conversation between you and your audience. So this is a big mind shift that I've had in the last little while, is like realizing that social media is literally just a conversation. So everything you do as an artist should be based around nourishing that conversation with your audience. And so like you said, things that help them, if you're an artist and you're teaching people how to play your song and you give them a 30-second or 1-minute breakdown on how to play your song, you've helped them. And those kinds of content pieces tend to do quite well. Or in other circumstances, like a duet can work, where I did one this morning that worked quite well, that was basically just a cover, and you leave space for people to sing and you get them to do remixes of it, and on Instagram and on TikTok it's duet, and that creates a lot of traction. Like it's that conversation and the fact that you're actually getting engaged with your audience, that's what creates the virality beyond your own audience as well, because people who discover you who are interested in music or interested in anything related to the video can become a fan and follow you and support you in the future. So everything you do should be about nurturing the conversation with your audience, and less about trying to promote your products. Yeah. Your music will sell itself if it's good. Like, you just have to find ways to present your music to your audience in an interesting way.
And authentic.
Yeah, it's got to be authentic.
The most 100%. Interesting.
100%.
You know, like, yeah, it's really fascinating because all of a sudden it's like, you know, social media is behind the scenes fully. Yeah. It's when it feels too curated, when it feels too produced, it's like this crazy filter that people have through social media that they didn't have before. You know, like television, and like that was the time of the rock star. This kind of like, you know, oh, they're a god.
Yeah. I see what you mean,
But they're like way higher above me, and I'm I believe this facade.
Yeah.
And now I
know
actually
what you
think
mean.
that's a really good thing, because everybody complains about social media all the time.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of negativity around it. But I think one of the really positive things it's done is the bullshit filter that everyone has.
Yeah, because people want to see something real and authentic. Like people want to like feel connected to you.
Yeah.
Especially when you're doing art or music or something that's creative. Like for the people who are watching that content, they don't know how to create. So not all of them, but a lot of them don't know how to create. And so to watch someone else create something out of nothing is fascinating. And so I guess that's why it's such an engaging bit of content for people, because people who don't understand how to make music or how to make a song get an insight of like, oh, that's how it works. And again, you're giving them something.
Yeah.
It's not
more than just the song.
Yeah, something more than just the song. And I think that is really how you want to build that connection with your audience. But coming back to building, I think what's super interesting and pertinent right now is because of all the tech innovations in the music industry, there's constantly new things coming in. And so there needs to be a constant conversation going between artists that helps each other learn all the new tricks of the trade.
Yeah.
Whether it's on the production side, new tools like Arcade, Splice Bridge, even just the best like cutting edge plugins, things like that, is really helpful to have suggestions if you're like new to the game and you see like someone who you admire talking about like the kind of plugins they're using. All of that stuff is going to help those people learn how to create. And so that's kind of the goal for me with this podcast and just generally moving forward with social media, is to find really build this kind of climate where people can come together, they can bring ideas, we can A&R them together, like we can tell each other, is this track cool? Oh, maybe that one's the best one. And then like as a community, when an artist needs to release music and they need support from a community to release that music, you just tap into your fellow artists. And ultimately, in the future, I can imagine a climate where you bring the crypto game, the blockchain innovations into music and have a kind of tokenized share structure in the music industry where an artist can basically put up a certain amount of the rights to their song, whether it's the master rights, the publishing rights, the neighboring rights. And they can tokenize that in a share structure. So if someone buys tokens, they're basically buying like a digital certification of the shares in that song. And so what that does is it creates a climate where other creators or influencers or even fans can invest in the artists or the songs that they love, and then they will have a stake in those songs. And you can imagine a situation where a big DJ finds like an unknown artist and they say, hey, I love this track. I'm going to buy shares in that track, and then I'm going to boost it and do a remix of it and push it to my platform. And then suddenly that track's got 100 million streams on Spotify. This unknown artist is getting a bunch of that revenue, and this bigger artist is also earning. Everyone's winning. All these people get this new artist and this new collaboration, like this new value added because there's been something created. You're facilitating cooperation with a system like that. So I see that being a really exciting thing in the future for it's not even that far in the future. The tech's already there. It's just about like helping people understand how to implement it. And I think that is going to be one of the most powerful ways and one of the powerful innovations of the music industry in the next 5 years.
Like, in integrating all of those collections into like one thing.
Exactly.
Because like, I mean, like, you know, when I started in the industry, I didn't know what the difference between a master was, what my publishing was, what my neighboring rights were, like, and how even once you understand all of that, the different countries and their collection agencies that don't cover the other countries, you know, and then all of a sudden you get an email, it's like, hey man, we've got some money for you. It's like, What?
Money?
What? You got where? What money? You know what I mean?
Royalties from 5 years ago?
Yeah,
No.
like radio, digital radio, syncing, record labels,
Yeah, no, it's crazy.
percentages, like
Yeah,
whoa.
I mean, I think at some point we should do a really good like breakdown of the music industry in a Swift video that we can share on a reel or something.
Yeah, well,
but-
I mean, even like half the time when you talk to artists who have already been releasing music for years and you try and explain everything to them,
most people are clueless, man.
they're like, holy crap. What?
and it's not their fault. It's just the industry is like complex. There's a lot to it.
Yeah.
And it's been built in a way that's essentially kept by gatekeepers. And that's what's interesting is that like the innovations in tech are actually going to change that, but like a lot is the way that the flow of royalties happens and like the speed at which the royalties reach you. Because like currently at the moment, if I get a stream in, let's say I get a stream in America today, I won't see a payment for that royalty on the publishing side for at least 6, 12, maybe even 18 months, depending on where they're at, like what platform and who's collecting and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so you can imagine that it's a tough situation for songwriters because they need to make songs and then wait a year or two before they even start getting paid for the royalties.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing that needs to change, and I think it will change with tech because you can make a blockchain that has all of the reporting happening in real time. It's transparent and everyone can see who owes who money, and it all just happens instantaneously so that the artist gets paid every time their song is used. And it's simple. There doesn't need to be a giant lag in the process. And we are getting to the point of modernizing the music industry. There have been legislative changes.
Yeah.
In the music industry that have like kind of pushed that forward. Even like in America, there was the Music Modernization Act that was passed, I think in 2016 or 2017, which forced America to have a minimum mechanical royalty. I think it was 15% is what
Right. This is on the neighboring rights side or on the publishing?
On the publishing side. So it's the mechanical rights. There's so many different royalties. We're going to have to break it down in a more, like in a whole episode because it goes crazy.
Yeah.
The point is there's lots of changes and there's progress, but we just need more people to understand how this all works so that we can take it to that next step. Because at the moment, what's lacking is the unification of artists in the music industry.
Sure.
Everybody is fragmented into like individual projects rather than being a community of artists that are all helping each other and lifting each other up and collaborating and communicating to each other's fan bases. And yeah, I think ultimately the industry is in need of a revamp, and that is coming through the tech revolution.
Yeah.
The fourth industrial revolution might even make it more crazy when you're moving into a world where there's AI that basically will listen to the chip in your brain, the Neuralink chip in your brain, and it'll calculate your feelings based on your brainwaves and then play you a mashup of your favorite songs that are perfect for the mood that you're in at that moment. And then you can imagine the licensing will change because the AI that's recommending you your daily mood playlist or your life soundtrack will be licensing that music from the creators. So the creators will still be creating the source material that people will need, that the AI will use to mash up. And so there's still opportunities for us to make money in that world and for us to survive in that industry.
That's so wild.
But the game is going to change. There's going to be a lot of big changes in the AI world in music. And I think that really now is the time to be aware and to be using it to your advantage. Like,
well, even if you think about like, because I love that concept of like some kind of a chip being able to completely recognize. I mean, it terrifies me a little bit, but only because it's unknown, not because it's necessarily actually a bad thing, because how can we even know if we've never done it before? But like right now where we're at, Spotify and the radio algorithm, it knows what you like and it gives you new things from artists that you don't know. And I love that. Like I mean, I find myself on Spotify all the time finding a new song and just being like, whoa, what is this?
Yeah.
This is so great. Thank you. And then I listen to the song, I become a massive fan of that artist, and it's like, it's great. So, you know, that's what you're saying, right? We just need to embrace this technology that is
Safely
finding
with caution.
the tribe
Yes.
of the artist.
Yeah, like
You know
the
what I
point
mean?
I'm trying to make is that for an artist to continue to thrive in the changing industry, it's more important now than ever that you focus on making good music.
Yeah.
And that you focus on defining your image and like being unique and authentic and individual. When I say individual, I mean having your uniqueness and letting that shine in collaborations with other artists.
Yeah.
So it's not about everybody having their own kind of lane that they're in and all just trying to like walk it alone. It's like each time there's new music, everybody that likes the music should be vocal about it and support it and find ways to collaborate on that with duets, with remixes, with covers.
Yeah.
But it's about showing our support for each other creatively, because that is really what shapes the culture. That's what creates culture. And
It's bigger than radio.
yeah,
It's bigger than, like, this is the really intense thing to understand right now, I think. And most people still don't want to agree or to even talk about it. You know, like, more than doing a whole album, or more than, I need to have the publicity going to all these radio stations, right? Like, obviously that's important. If you can do it. But even more important than that is this new world that's kind of just forming, where artists have direct connection to the audience through social media and through the streaming platforms.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing.
Yeah, and I mean, it's never been easier than now to reach people.
And
Back in
live
the day,
music, of course, as well. Playing the shows live.
Yeah,
Which is great.
Ultimately, the live side is a whole nother kettle of fish, which I think definitely plays into your strategy, but it's like something that, in my opinion, you should only do once you've really like built up a solid presence and you've got a solid catalog and like you feel really good about the show, because you want people's first impression of you to be lasting and like wow, not like a kind of underwhelming feeling. And I think some artists, when they go out too soon, I'm not going to mention any because that's kind of mean, but some artists go out too soon and they blow up, and then they get out there and they're not actually ready to like deliver a festival performance, and they're there on like a main stage, and it's kind of awkward. So it's timing is everything in a career. Like, you want to make sure that you've developed your craft to the point where you're solid, so that when you get out there, you feel like you deserve you've like earned the right to be there, and that when you step out on the stage, you've got that confidence because you know that you've put in the work and you've crafted your craft. You've built your show up to the point where you can go out and make people feel wowed. And I think until that point, it's like, you need to practice, you need to play, you still need to practice performing and find ways to play. But I think you can ruin your career if you try to tour too much, because it's an investment at the start.
A lot of money too.
And then you can get demotivated if you lose all of the money every time you go on tour, and then it's tough. So my advice these days wouldn't be to tour early. I'd say like hold off until you have enough hype to kind of to justify it. Not to say that you can't get shows, but it's just more exciting when you are starting to like build a presence. People are more excited about the shows. The agents will come on board. They'll get you the better shows. Like, all of the team is going to be more aligned.
But then at the same time, like, there have been people like Ziggy Alberts, who played in everyone's backyards for years and did the same.
He also had a very strong social media game the whole way through.
He did. But he really did like just go, you know, because we used to play shows together when he'd come down to the South Coast in Australia, where I'm from, and it was just like wherever we could get,
I think
crazy.
I'm pretty sure the first time I met Ziggy was at Byron Surf Festival. We were playing like a show there, and he was playing either before us or after us. And at that point, like, we were both pretty much unknown bands. And I just remember, like, yeah, he was so kind, and like you could tell that he is someone who was gonna, like, he was hardworking but also like humble, and I think it's a people's game. So like when someone's likable and they're nice and they're hardworking and they're talented, they're gonna go a lot further than someone who might be like, I don't know, a one-hit wonder type thing. It's that consistency, like,
yeah, it's true. It's true.
So yeah, that's one thing. But look, ultimately, this in this day and age, like, I feel like we're in it's an indie artist game. We're in an industry where, like, the speed at which things happen, it's almost difficult for major labels to keep up now. And like, if you're an independent artist, you can really move rapidly. You can get songs distributed like that. You can get
your social media is at the tip of your hand.
Exactly.
Without having to even talk about it with anyone else.
100%.
Yeah.
And so that's something that people need to realize, is that, like, the agility of having a small team and just being super aware of your fan base and in touch with them, and aware of the music you're putting out. Make sure that you don't put cringe stuff out, but like, ultimately be harsh on yourself to a degree, but then also let yourself experiment and put stuff out and see how people respond. But ultimately, it's an indie artist game at this point. And in my opinion, if you want to, you can get a computer, you can learn how to produce, you can learn how to mix, you can learn how to master, you can learn how to make reels for Instagram. And that's basically all you need. Once you've got that, or you work with other people to make songs, once you have the content, it's just a matter of, like, feeding it out on social media and trying stuff until it hits. Ultimately, there's no magic wand that can make you blow up. A major label could sign you, and nothing could happen.
It's true.
It's you that's going to make your career. It's like, a label can help, don't get me wrong. When they flex their muscles, it goes a long way. But it really comes down to, at the end of the day, you as the artist need to be in control of your vision, and you need to be putting out something authentic, because that's going to resonate with listeners and it's going to resonate with viewers. And that is how you're going to blow up. It's got nothing to do with whether a label signs you or not. It's totally up to you. Yeah.
Because the label's just going to give you an advance. They're going to give you a bunch of money, which is your money, because it has to be paid off by you.
But what they will also provide is knowledge.
Yes.
And so that's why I think the alternative, in the long run, like, labels are great, but I think having a network of indie labels that all kind of support each other, like, an artist can set up their own label like that, and then you could collaborate with your mates and put songs out through your label. It's not that hard. Having that kind of fluidity and, like, just, like, removing the friction is really good, because you can say, well, someone wants to use my song. Oh, okay, well, they're not really going to pay much for it, but it's going to get a lot of reach. So you have the ability to do that and accept those offers when you're in control. Whereas, look, I'm not dissing labels. Don't get me wrong. They can do a lot for an artist.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is that if the artist isn't engaged, the label can't do shit.
Yeah.
And I've seen, even in our own campaigns, how the level of interest that we took in our marketing campaigns completely reflected in the results.
Yeah.
We had times where we slacked off and we let marketing agencies just run ads and kind of take a more, like, backseat approach.
The false comfort.
Yeah, and you see the results. Like, you basically throw money down the drain. You can get that traction and that reach for free just by being honest and authentic, and trying to connect with your audience on a human level.
Yeah, fully. It's great.
So I'm on a different wave this year. I feel it's like it's taken me a little while to come around. I've obviously spent a lot of my life crafting my skill sets to make music, but now that that's like a kind of something that I can do, I'm focusing on ways to connect with the audience more and to also connect with other artists, because these conversations we've been having obviously between us, but also like other artists around us, everyone's like, it's a resounding yes to the idea of an artist union. The idea of unifying everyone and giving like a community of indie labels and indie artists some kind of unification where there's basically funding for top tier like policy changing and lawsuits, things that can shift the music industry in the favor of the artist, or not in the favor of, but just to be fair for the artist. And I think that the best way to do that is to get lots of people in cooperation, artists, independent artists, working in cooperation with each other to achieve a much fairer industry when it comes to renegotiating streaming rates with the DSPs, like whether it's Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, all of that stuff. I think that we need to overhaul the industry and have full transparency in the deals that are signed between the distributors and the DSPs, because at the moment everyone has different rates and no one discloses what their rates are, which means that it's a gamed system. And I don't want to cast any shade on anyone. I don't want to be attacked, but ultimately this is the only way we're going to change the game to make it fair for everyone, is by talking about this stuff and making people realize how complicated the industry is. Once everyone has the knowledge, we have the power to shape it in a fair way for everyone.
Fully. Yeah. That's the ultimate goal, to empower the artist and connect them with their tribe.
Yeah.
Straight up.
Yeah, exactly. But I've been rambling a bit, bro. I want to hear more about you. What's been going on?
Well, I just feel like in and amongst all of that, my main goal and what I care about most is just purely the kind of energy that artists are bringing to what they're doing, and the practice in getting to that place with social media, because that's an instrument in itself. Like, I feel like using social media is like learning to play guitar. Mm-hmm. You're going to be terrible at it for a while, until you kind of like figure it out. And I feel like I've had moments of success with it, and then not so much, and now I'm just like, but my ultimate goal is to, as I said before, use it in a way that is truly authentic and brings me closer to the unknown tribe that we're not yet in contact with. Because I also feel like that's another thing that you can do, is you can get really stuck on the conversation with who currently follows you, rather than staying in that open mind of everyone who you have not yet reached.
Yeah, well, I think this has been a big theme for me in the new album writing process for Tora. We went in with the mindset that we wanted to break people's idea of what we are. So I think that has been a real challenge, because over the years we've kind of built a certain sound and a vibe, and we love that vibe. And I think the new stuff it still has the essence of Tora, but it's kind of broken out a bit. And I think going into that process of trying to like approach the music in a new way, we did a lot more like live instruments recording. We did like a lot more like writing all together. Cool. And we kind of just reimagined what the band is or what it can be. And that's like kind of with this thought in mind that the audience that we're projecting to isn't limited to our existing audience. It could also reach new people. If we bring in some new flavors, we can reach a more diverse group of people. So that's kind of the intention with this one. And the other intention behind the new record is basically like, for me in that process, was this kind of sigh of relief of like going through darkness, and then like the feeling of coming out on the other end after everything crazy that happened over the last years, coming out on the other end and feeling really like I'm happy to have today. Yeah, it's great. It's really good. Yeah, because if we're going to spend all this time also talking about the way that we approach music, I think it's
the way that we present and connect to the tribe using technology and all these really practical things. It's so important to spend some time just focusing on what it actually is that we're making, and like the journey within ourselves in our own lives, being confronted by this crazy world and getting to that higher place. Like for me, I've had I'm in the process of practicing things that I've learned from like a crazy awakening. I feel like it's such a dirty word to say awakening. So many people don't like it, but that is how I feel about, you know, a couple of months ago when I learned about, you know, choosing a new way of perceiving the world in a more unknown version of myself, which is able to attract all of the things that I ultimately want in my life. But it's uncomfortable because I don't know it. So that, like, for me, like I actually have taken a real step back lately from, you know, everything that I was doing on social media and everything that I've been doing in the usual business sense, trying to keep up with the way that things are going. I have spent like some time really just actually focusing on myself.
Important.
Yeah, like and just like actually going, okay, who am I? Up until this point, who have I been? Where have I been afraid, or like where have I been resonating on all of the things that don't serve me? And now where do I want to be, and who is that person, and am I able to actually like step out into that and be that uncomfortable and in faith that that new version is going to be able to operate in this magical way that we've been talking about. Like that's been my life for the last 2 months. It's been still terribly destructive and full of like failure, but at least I keep coming back and I'm like, okay, no. I'm actually whatever I want to be right now in this in this present moment.
Man, you kind of hit the nail on the head. For me, it's like if you want to create something, you kind of have to destroy something. And so every time I make a record, I dive into the process, and I guess what I'm doing is I'm coming to terms with my old self and destroying it and then being reborn on the other end. And so when I make albums, when I'm done, I feel a sense of sadness in a way, followed by a sense of relief and a feeling of accomplishment. And but really, I think that, you can't create something without destroying something.
It's so true in music, in your own personal life, in everything. So like, I mean, I could go on about this forever, because like, I feel like, you know, music was a bridge for me to understanding actually something even deeper. It started with, you know, playing the guitar and singing and making a life in some way where I can actually just do that all the time, because it was self-discovery. You know how you said, like, for you, it's so healing to play music, and that's like one of the deepest meanings. That's it for me as well. And I've realized as well as that, and I feel like that really is healing, is self-discovery, because you're like, okay, well, I need to figure out what it is about myself. Why do I feel this way? Yeah. I feel like I've just come to this point now where I'm using music to understand that actually me as a person in my body and my mind is an instrument in itself. Yeah. And that is so like, holy crap. I don't even know really, like, okay, how the fuck do I play that instrument? You know, how do I play my mind and not get played by my mind?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And same for my body. Because
well, you've been doing lots of like meditation and kind of practicing mindfulness and stuff lately, right? You were telling me that you the other day had like a transcendental experience of like becoming, like, feeling like you were just energy surrounded by energy. Yeah. Well,
I can't maintain it for more than a little bit of time, but like I've got there like 3 times now. But the one thing that I want to say about all of that is what I'm really excited about is to get control of that. And then to take that and then put that back into music, because I feel like that is really important to and useful for other people is like, can I create music from a sense of not business, even though obviously I need to make a living, but something even higher. Yeah, feeling and creating a trance state. This is like one of my ultimate dreams for the future of what I do musically is I want to, and I feel like I have been doing this subconsciously, and I know you've been doing this from listening to your music. You create an atmosphere. It's almost like a portal for people to enter, and then through the direction of your lyrics, shift their energy, shift their thoughts, learn more about themselves, connect to something higher. And how can you can't do that unless you actually have been in the battle yourself, figuring out what that is.
Yeah, for sure. No, I see what you're saying. Like, I feel like when making music, what you're trying to do is bring the listener, which when you're making it, it's yourself. But yeah, when you're making music, what you're trying to do is bring the listener into a world that is separate from this one.
Yeah.
You're trying to take them into another space, and so that they can get that feeling of escape. And ultimately, you want to facilitate whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
So if it's a chill song that's for like listening while you're studying, that's going to be a whole different creative process compared to making a dance song that like is supposed to make people dance in a club.
Yeah.
But I've found that my mood is always all over the place, right? Like in a good way. I've managed to navigate my negative emotions pretty well these days.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I feel like you've really got a handle on that. It's
because
powerful.
I don't really let things bring me down too much. Like I have a positive mindset generally.
Yeah.
But part of the process of like creating music, pretty much all of the process is based around feeling for me in the beginning.
Yeah.
And so I can't make a dance song if I'm in a sad mood about someone who just broke up with me, for example. I'm going to make something like Too Much when I'm sad.
Yeah.
And the same applies the other way around. If I'm in a really good mood and I'm dancing around, like it's really hard to make something emotional. So that's what's interesting is like I actually try to encourage myself to be creative at times when I'm in moods that like aren't my usual creative moods, so that I can see what comes out. And yeah, I think I've been lately feeling dance music a lot more. I've been getting way more into like upbeat stuff, which I always liked. I always liked dance music and I love to dance, but I've been kind of incorporating it a bit more into my own stuff. Like and when I say my own, it's kind of a weird thing to say because like the way I view it.
7 projects now, so.
No, but the way I view it is like, okay, there's the world, there's the universe, and within the universe you have physical space. And you also have time. And then you have what's called ideas. And those ideas live outside of space and time. Yeah. But they can come into space and time. So they live within and outside of space and time. Through us. Yeah. So when we have an idea, we're giving birth to something. We're pulling it from these other dimensions into the physical world through our conscious mind, which tunes in to those ideas like a radio tower. Those ideas come to us and through us, and then they are heard by the audience, by the listeners, and that moment when your idea is heard by the listeners, it's actually like a tree falling in the forest, right? Yeah. If no one heard your song, did it even exist? To them it didn't, not in their universe. And so ultimately, out of sight, out of mind, if you're not in somebody's feed, if you're not in their Spotify, if you're not at the venue down the street, they won't know that you even exist. Essentially, you don't exist. And so as soon as you start bringing these ideas into the world, you're basically riding off of the power of those ideas, and they then become associated with you. But you aren't the ideas, you just manifested them. Yeah. They came from up there, wherever that is. Yeah, true. And so you're, in a way, sometimes I feel like artists are almost similar to oil companies in the sense that they harvest natural resources and then they sell them to the world. But
Except what's
hopefully
the resource? It's like just some
ideas.
idea. Yeah, true. But even the idea is not yours, right?
That's what I mean. It's
Yeah.
like we're harvesting a natural resource that essentially belongs to everyone.
Yeah.
And then I guess the reason why people are happy to pay for those ideas is because it brings value to their life and it heals them. So
Yeah. Well, 100%, man. Like you said it so well the other day. We were just having a separate conversation. Like, if you switch Spotify off tomorrow, people would be necking themselves all over the world. That's the value of music.
100%.
Like, it's intrinsically valuable to people actually having purpose in their lives.
Yeah, music is clearly a powerful healing medicine for the mind and even for the body, because the way that the frequencies in a song resonate with the frequencies of your physical body is going to impact how you feel.
Yeah.
If you're listening to really negative music that's got lots of dissonance in it, then the cells and the molecules and the atoms in your body are going to feel dissonant.
Yeah.
If you're listening to uplifting, beautifully harmonic music, then your body and the cells in your body and the atoms in those molecules that are in your cells are all going to be vibrating in harmony, and you're going to live a better life by listening to uplift, like by listening to the right music. And that's not to say that different music doesn't have different value depending on your mood.
Well, yeah, exactly. But the thing is that I've found, and this has just been the biggest shift in what I've done, is that in the past, I thought I was always at the mercy of whatever I was feeling.
Yeah.
Not realizing that I'm actually creating it by the way that I think. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'm choosing to react out of sadness towards that.
Mm-hmm.
I was previously unaware of that for the majority of my life. And so a lot of the stuff that I used to make, it's really funny because it was like a feedback loop of that sadness. But there was still this weird hope in there that I was obviously doing subconsciously and I wasn't really aware of. Mm-hmm. But now I've come to a point where it's like, okay, no, I want to choose consciously to create stuff that lifts people's spirits and my own. I don't want to go into those places where I've been for so long.
Yeah, so you're choosing to tune into the positive vibes.
Yeah.
It sounds cheesy, but like essentially that is a choice you can make. You can tune yourself just like you can tune a guitar.
Yeah.
You can choose to be annoyed at the people around you and the way that they act, or you can choose to receive their actions in a different way by tuning yourself to them, right? Same applies to everything in life. Which kind of brings me to a segue, which is talking about tuning. What do you think about my weird hypothesis that we are out of tune, that our planet is out of tune? So look, let me give some context here. Basically, if anyone wants to get some more background on it, look into like 3, 6, and 9, the magic numbers, whatever they call it, like Tesla's keys to the universe or whatever. There's videos all over the internet about
like
it.
the maths of how they appear in nature.
Exactly.
In sound resonance.
And it goes deep. It goes real deep. But basically it comes down to like maths. And if you think about like exponential growth, which is basically the shape of the universe, it's a spiral, right? So it's like 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, etc. And that ends up looking like a spiral, and which is actually the number 9, right? And so if you go
true.
1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8, you get 36. Now you go 3 plus 6, that equals 9, right? 360 degrees is a circle. So 3 plus 6 plus 0 equals 9.
9.
You cut it in half. 1 plus 8 plus 0 equals 9. Cut it in half again. 4 plus 4 plus 5 equals 9.
4 plus 5.
So 4 plus 5 equals 9.
Yeah.
Cut it again.
That's crazy.
etc. No matter how many times you double it or half it, it'll always add up to 9. And so what the mathematical equation is that all the other numbers in the universe equals 9. Everything in the universe equals 9 because 9 is a sum of the universe. Now, you've got to bear with me here because this is a weird line of thinking. It's kind of trippy to get your head around. But our whole time system is based around the amount of time it takes for us to do 360 degrees in a year around the sun, right? There's 360. Well, we'll get to that. So that's 360 degrees. Now we have 365.25 rotations in the time that it takes us to do 360 degrees, right? So my hypothesis is, and I could be completely wrong here, but because our rotation is slightly faster than 360 degrees, we're actually resonating slightly out of tune, which is why our music system, instead of being tuned to 432, which is what is supposedly real middle A, is it? Natural, what do they call it? True A?
The true A, which is 4 plus 3 plus 2, which is 9. Yeah.
Instead of being tuned to 432 for middle A, we're tuned to 440. Now, I'm hypothesizing that the reason for that is because the Earth is spinning slightly faster than it should to be in perfect symmetry. And there is a hypothesis out there that many millions of years ago, the moon was 30-day cycles, and Mars would be 720 days around the sun, and Earth was 360 days around the sun, and they were in perfect harmony. But for some reason, some kind of like I guess gravitational force pulled when Earth and Mars got too close together, pulled them out of their normal orbit and made them spin faster. And at that moment, I wonder if that was like someone tuning a guitar. And so from now on, for us, 440 feels natural, even though it's not perfect maths anymore.
Yeah, because if I've done the tests and I've listened to things in 432 and 440, and I'm like,
432 sounds weird.
It doesn't actually feel any better.
Yeah. It feels weird to me. 440 feels natural.
Yeah.
And we've obviously tuned our whole music system to that for a reason. But it's like, I was trying to understand why, because mathematically it doesn't make any sense until I start to factor in the fact that we're not 365 days a year. We're not 360 days a year. Now, there's a bit more context I need to give, which is basically our time system is based on so the amount of seconds in a year is a division of how much time it takes to get around the sun, right? It's a perfect subdivision. So can you just ask Siri quickly how
I can't know. But I know what you mean with the BPMs, right?
Basically, however many beats, like it's beats all related. Minute. If you've got 60 beats in a minute, then obviously that's a perfect subdivision of the time it takes to go around the sun, because our time is all divided up by the time it takes to go around the sun. And so if you're imagining that the amount of beats per minute is resonating with the orbit of our planet, it's a perfect subdivision of the orbit of our planet, then you want to be choosing tempos that are in resonance with 3, 6, or 9, which essentially is things like 90 BPM or 120 BPM,
120, 1
or
plus 2
108 BPM or 111 BPM. You'll notice when you actually look into it and you start listening to lots of songs that you like, you'll see that like a majority of them are actually in the perfect resonance with Earth's orbit. And that is something that we can feel on a fundamental level as human beings. So this is crazy stuff. And I started to implement mathematics into my music making probably 5 years ago. And ever since then, people started to pay more and more attention. So I don't know if it's just me being superstitious or if I'm onto something, but I would say that if you start looking for the patterns, you'll notice them too, because they're everywhere. Every time you like something and you think, wow, that's really good, it's usually in harmonic resonance with the Earth's orbit. And
I've found that true a lot of the time, except like, for instance, I really like 127 BPM.
Okay. Interesting. Because I like 126.
I don't know what's going on there. Sometimes I really dig 127.
Okay.
And I love 90. I can agree on 90. 90 is, I've used 90 so many times.
Yeah.
My song Hear My Voice, The Art of Escape was pretty much 90. The Art of Escape was played without a metronome And when I was with Network, the label, they did all this data on the song and they worked out that it was majority 93 BPM.
Well, there we
So
go.
that was without a click, just naturally playing the song. It was 12, which is a combination of threes.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, it's all crazy when you dive into it. Like if you actually treat music like a science, it's actually crazy. Like my mind is constantly blown, and it goes even further, like beyond just the notes in the music and beyond the tempo of the music. Because obviously when you play something that's in key, the same thing's happening, right? The notes are resonating in harmony, which is basically the same as what's happening with the tempo. Things are in harmony.
Yeah.
But when you go one step further, when you're actually mixing songs, you realize that like everything that sounds bad in the song is just when there's too much harmonic resonance in a certain frequency. And so you balance all that out. But usually that is either that's happening or there's what's called like harmonic dissonance, or I guess it's just called dissonance, which is like when frequencies are clashing instead of moving in harmony. And so usually when a song sounds like distorted and like bad, it's because there's like notes in the song that are clashing and like just they're like dissonance. They're creating dissonance, and that will actually affect the mix of the track. So like when you're mixing a track, often I find like I'll notice things in the music that are written wrong and then go back and rewrite stuff and like because you only really know this stuff when you're actually going through it with a fine-tooth comb, and like do you feel that something's not quite right and you're like, what is it? But then you go and you do the maths and you realize like, okay, that needs to change. And that's the process of taking a song from being like a cool idea to being like a polished, like finished product that people want to listen to on repeat.
Fully. Amazing. Music.
Yeah, man.
Resonance.
Good vibes.
Good vibes.
Well, man, it's been great to chat. Let's do it again soon.
So good, dude.
There's plenty more to come in terms of like new content. Hein and I have been working on some music in various forms behind the scenes. So yeah, lots to come. And with the Tora record, we're going back to Spain in September to finish off the record. We're really happy with what we made so far. Super excited. I showed it to Hein. What do you think, Hein? The demos so far?
It's a journey. It's a magical journey. That's 2 words I'll use for it.
Magical journey.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in to the Tora podcasts. It's been a great conversation, and we'll see you guys again for many more.
Boom.